The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls were made of living crystal that glowed with the light of 1,000 captured stars. 12 massive thrones sat in a circle, each one designed for a different species. And in the center of this circle stood a single small platform meant for those who had been summoned. Ambassador Yuna stepped onto that platform without fear. She was a small woman by human standards. Her black hair was tied back in a simple knot, and she wore the plain gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. She carried no weapons. She had no guards. She stood alone before the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. And her heart beat steady and calm. "Human representative," boomed the voice of High Counselor Veth. He was a massive creature, 12 feet tall, with skin like polished stone and eyes that burned with ancient fire. His species, the Korathi, had ruled 300 star systems for 10,000 years. "You have been summoned to answer for your crimes." Yuna tilted her head slightly. "I was not aware that humanity had committed any crimes, High Counselor." A ripple of angry sounds moved through the hall. The other council members shifted on their thrones. Some of them clicked their claws. Others flashed colors of rage across their skin. One species, the Mallory, released a cloud of bitter-smelling pheromones that meant extreme displeasure. "Do not play games with us," Veth said. His voice shook the floor. "Your scientists have developed void technology. This is forbidden. This is dangerous. This threatens the stability of the entire galaxy." Yuna remained still. "Our scientists have made certain discoveries, yes. We do not believe these discoveries threaten anyone." "You do not believe?" The Korathi leaned forward on his throne. "You are children in this galaxy. Your species has traveled among the stars for barely 200 years. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia. We know what void technology can do. We know what horrors it can unleash." "Then perhaps you should tell me," Yuna said quietly. "Because my government has studied our discoveries very carefully, and we have found nothing dangerous about them." The council members exchanged looks. Yuna noticed that several of them seemed uncomfortable. The Mallory representative, a creature like a giant floating jellyfish, pulsed with uncertain colors. The Trekkie delegate, who resembled a praying mantis made of chrome, clicked its mandibles nervously. High Counselor Veth spoke again. "The details are not your concern. What matters is this. The Galactic Council demands that humanity surrender all void technology immediately. You will hand over your research. You will destroy your equipment. You will allow our inspectors full access to every human world, station, and ship. There will be no exceptions." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. The silence stretched out until it became uncomfortable. Some of the council members leaned forward, eager to hear humanity's surrender. "No," Yuna said. The word was soft, but it hit the council like a bomb. "What did you say?" Veth's eyes flared brighter. "I said no." Yuna's voice remained calm. "Humanity will not surrender our technology. We will not hand over our research. We will not destroy our equipment. And we will certainly not allow foreign inspectors to violate our sovereignty." "This conversation is over." The hall erupted in chaos. Council members shouted over each other. Veth slammed his massive fist against his throne, cracking the ancient stone. The Trekkie delegate actually stood up, its bladed arms unfolding in what might have been a threat display. "You cannot refuse," Veth roared. "The Galactic Council speaks with the authority of 12 civilizations. We command fleets that number in the millions. We have crushed rebellions that lasted centuries. You are one small species on one small world, and you dare to say no to us?" Yuna looked up at him without flinching. "Yes, then you will face consequences. We will blockade your systems. We will cut off your trade. We will—" "You will do nothing," Yuna interrupted. Her voice was still quiet, but something in it made even Veth pause. "Because you need us more than you know. And because we have done nothing wrong." She turned to address the entire council. "For 200 years, humanity has been a good neighbor in this galaxy. We have traded fairly. We have honored our agreements. We have helped species in need, even when there was no benefit to ourselves. We have never started a war. We have never conquered a world. We have never threatened anyone. She let those words sink in before continuing. And now you summon us here. You accuse us of crimes without evidence. You demand we give up our property without explanation. You threaten us with violence simply because we have learned something new. Is this the justice of the Galactic Council? Is this how you treat your friends? Several council members looked away. The Mallory's colors shifted to something that might have been shame. Even Veth's fire seemed to dim slightly. We are trying to protect the galaxy, Veth said, but his voice had lost some of its thunder. There are things you do not understand. Dangers you cannot imagine. Then explain them to us, Yuna said. Sit down with our scientists. Share your knowledge. Let us work together as partners, not as master and servant. That is how civilized beings solve problems. Veth shook his great head. There is no time for such things. The decision has been made. Surrender your technology, or face the consequences. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something in it that made several council members feel suddenly cold. Very well, she said. If the Galactic Council will not negotiate with humanity, then humanity will not negotiate with the Galactic Council. You have made your choice. Now, we will make ours. She stepped off the platform and began walking toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the suddenly silent hall. Where are you going? Veth demanded. We have not dismissed you. Yuna did not turn around. I am returning to Earth. I suggest you enjoy the next few days. High Counselor. They may be the last normal days this galaxy sees. For a very long time. And then she was gone. The council members sat in stunned silence. No one had ever walked out on them before. No species had ever refused their demands so completely. They had expected the humans to beg, to bargain, to ask for mercy. Instead, the small woman had looked at the most powerful beings in the galaxy and simply said no. She is bluffing, the Trekkie delegate said finally. Humans are weak. They have no great fleets. They have no ancient weapons. What can they possibly do against us? High Counselor Veth did not answer. He was staring at the empty platform where the human had stood. And for the first time in 3,000 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt afraid. 3 days after Ambassador Yuna walked out of the Galactic Council, every human in the galaxy disappeared. It did not happen slowly. There was no warning. One moment, human ships filled the trade lanes. Human merchants sold their goods in 1,000 markets. Human doctors worked in alien hospitals. Human engineers maintained critical systems on worlds that had grown dependent on their skills. And then, between one heartbeat and the next, they were gone. Commander Taewoo stood on the bridge of the carrier Dawn of Seoul and watched the last of the evacuation ships jump to safety. His face showed no emotion. His hands were steady on the controls, but inside, his heart was heavy with the weight of what humanity was doing. All ships confirmed away, reported his second officer, a young woman named Mira. The colonies are empty, the stations are sealed. Every human in the outer sectors has been recovered. And the listening posts? Taewoo asked. Active and hidden. We will see everything they do, but they will not know we are watching. Taewoo nodded. Good. Set course for the rendezvous point. Maximum stealth. The great ship turned slowly in the darkness between stars. Its engines, powered by technology the Council did not understand, made no heat and left no trail. Within moments, it had vanished from any sensor that might have been looking for it. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out again and again. Human freighters that had been docked at alien stations were suddenly gone. Their berths empty, their cargo holds cleared out. Human workers who had been essential to mining operations, medical facilities, and research stations simply vanished from their posts. Human families who had lived among alien neighbors for generations packed up their homes in a single night, and left without saying goodbye. And with the humans went everything they had brought. The Mallory were the first to realize the scale of the disaster. Their species floated through life in great balloon-like bodies, and they required a specific medication to survive in the thin atmospheres of most space stations. Human pharmaceutical companies had made that medication for 50 years. When the humans left, they took every dose with them. Within hours, Mallory representatives were begging the Council for help. Within days, thousands of Mallory were dying. The Trekkie faced a different crisis. Their ships used a type of crystal in their navigation systems. A crystal that could only be properly cut and aligned by human hands. The Trekkie had the raw materials. They even had the knowledge, but their bladed limbs could not perform the delicate work required. When the humans left, half the Trekkie fleet was grounded. The Karathi, proud rulers of 300 star systems, discovered that their entire communications network depended on human-designed relay stations. They had not built the network themselves. They had hired humans to do it, decades ago, and had never bothered to learn how it worked. Now the stations were dark, and the Karathi found themselves blind and deaf, unable to coordinate their vast empire. One by one, every species in the Council discovered how much they had come to rely on the small, weak humans they had threatened just days before. High Counselor Veth sat alone in his chambers and read the reports. Each one was worse than the last. The Veloxi needed human help to maintain their underwater cities. The Growth needed human programmers to run their automated factories. The mysterious Shadowkin, who never attended council meetings in person, sent a rare message saying that certain human artists had been creating works essential to their spiritual practices. And without those works, their people would fall into despair. Veth crumpled the reports in his massive hands. "How did this happen?" he growled. "How did we become so dependent on them?" His chief advisor, an ancient Karathi named Theron, stood in the shadows. "It happened because humans are useful, High Counselor. They are adaptable. They work hard. They solve problems in ways our species cannot imagine. Over 200 years, they made themselves essential to everyone, not through force, not through threats, simply by being helpful. And now they are gone. Yes, and they took everything with them. Every patent, every technique, every piece of knowledge that was uniquely theirs. They left nothing behind that we could use." Veth stood up and walked to his window. Outside, the great city of the Korathi stretched to the horizon, its towers reaching toward the sky. But even now, he could see that some of the towers were dark. The systems that powered them had failed, and there were no human technicians to fix them. "Can we not simply take what we need?" Veth asked. "We have the largest military in the galaxy. We could seize human worlds, force them to return." Theron shook his ancient head. "We cannot find them, High Counselor. Earth is empty. Their colonies are abandoned. Their ships have vanished. It is as if they never existed. Our scouts have searched 100 systems and found nothing but dust. That is impossible. Billions of humans cannot simply disappear. And yet they have. Whatever technology they developed, whatever secrets they discovered, it has allowed them to hide from us completely. We do not know where they went. We do not know how to reach them. We do not even know if they are still in this galaxy." Veth turned back to face his advisor. For the first time in living memory, fear showed openly on his stone face. "What do? We wait," Theron said. "And we hope that when they choose to return, they will be willing to forgive us." But hope was in short supply across the galaxy. The trade networks that connected 1,000 worlds began to break down. Ships that relied on human navigation data got lost in the void between stars. Factories that depended on human-made components ground to a halt. Medical facilities watched helplessly as patients died from conditions that human doctors could have treated easily. The council met in emergency session after emergency session. They argued. They blamed each other. They sent desperate messages into the void, begging the humans to respond. But the humans did not answer. The frequencies that had once carried their cheerful voices, their music, their laughter, were silent. The galaxy had spent 200 years taking humanity for granted. They had seen the small, soft creatures as useful servants, convenient workers who could be ordered about and dismissed when no longer needed. They had never considered what would happen if the humans decided to leave. Now they knew. In the darkness between galaxies, far from any star or planet that the Council knew about, the human fleet gathered. Millions of ships, carrying billions of people, floating in the absolute black. They had food. They had water. They had everything they needed to survive for years if necessary. And they had something else. Something that Commander Taewoo and Ambassador Yuna and all the other leaders of humanity knew was the real reason the Council had been so afraid. They had the truth about what the void technology really was. On the bridge of the Dawn of Sol, Taewoo watched the reports coming in from the listening posts. He saw the chaos spreading through Council space. He saw the fear. He saw the suffering. Part of him wanted to go back. Humans had always been helpers. It was in their nature to see someone in pain and offer aid. But he knew that going back now would mean going back to the same old system. The same old hierarchy. The same old arrangement where humans were useful tools to be threatened when convenient. No. This time, things would be different. This time, when humanity returned, they would return as equals. Or they would not return at all. 2 weeks after the humans vanished, a Trekkie exploration ship found something in the deep void that changed everything. The ship was called the Silent Blade, and its captain was a veteran explorer named Crix. He had been searching for human hiding places on the orders of the Council. Instead, he found something far more terrifying. "What am I looking at?" Crix asked his science officer. The officer, a younger Trekkie named Voss, clicked her mandibles nervously. "It appears to be a containment facility of some kind, Captain. Ancient construction, far older than any known civilization. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases." Crix studied the structure through the ship's sensors. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, and it was clearly artificial. Strange symbols covered its surface. Symbols that seemed to shift and change when he looked at them directly. The entire thing floated in the absolute darkness between galaxies, far from any star or trade route. "Who built it?" Crix asked. "Unknown, Captain." "But there is something else." Voss hesitated. "The facility appears to be damaged. There are breaches in the outer hull, and the energy readings suggest that whatever was being contained inside may be starting to leak out." A cold feeling spread through Crix's body. What was being contained? Before Voss could answer, the ship's communications system crackled to life. A voice came through, speaking perfect Trekkie, but with a strange echo that made it sound like many voices speaking at once. "Turn back. This place is not for you. Turn back now, before it is too late." "Who is this?" Crix demanded. "Identify yourself. We are the Watchers. We are the Keepers. For 10,000 years, we have guarded this prison. For 10,000 years, we have kept the darkness contained, but our time is ending, and those who were supposed to take our place have been driven away." Crix's blood ran cold. "The humans. You are talking about the humans." "Yes. The humans discovered what we were doing. They understood the danger. They were preparing to help us, to strengthen the containment, to continue the watch, and then your council threatened them, and they were forced to hide. Now there is no one to maintain the prison. The darkness is waking." The communication cut off. Crix sat in silence for a long moment, trying to process what he had just heard. Then he turned to his crew. "Get us out of here. Maximum speed. We need to report this to the Council immediately." 12 hours later, Crix stood before High Counselor Veth and told him everything. The ancient prison. The unknown threat. The Watchers who had guarded it for millennia. And the revelation that humans had been preparing to take over that duty before the Council drove them away. Veth listened in silence. When Crix finished, the High Counselor sat motionless on his throne for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Bring me the human research files, all of them, everything we confiscated from their abandoned stations." The files arrived within hours. Teams of Korathi scientists worked through the night to decode the human records. What they found was worse than Veth had feared. Dr. Hannah Park had been the lead researcher on the Human Void Technology project. Her logs were detailed, careful, and deeply troubling. She had discovered the ancient prison 3 years ago, following energy signatures that no other species had thought to investigate. She had made contact with the Watchers, beings so old they had forgotten their own names, and she had learned the terrible truth about what was locked inside. "It does not have a name," Hannah had written in her final log entry. "The Watchers call it the Endless Hunger. It is not a creature in any sense we understand. It is more like a force, a direction, a pull toward absolute nothing. It eats matter. It eats energy. It eats thought itself. 10,000 years ago, it nearly destroyed this galaxy. The Watchers sacrificed everything to contain it. They gave up their bodies, their homes, their very identities to become eternal guards." Veth read on with growing horror. "But containment is not permanent. The prison was never meant to last forever. It was meant to buy time for someone to find a real solution. The Watchers believed that eventually, a species would arise with the creativity and determination to destroy the endless hunger once and for all. They waited for that species for 10,000 years. And then they found us," Hannah had written. "They found humanity. They said we were different from other species, more adaptable, more stubborn, more willing to try impossible things. They said we might be the ones who could finally end the threat forever." Veth set down the log and buried his face in his hands. "What have we done?" he whispered. More files followed. Technical specifications for equipment the humans had been building. Plans for expeditions to the prison. Theories about how the endless hunger might be destroyed. The humans had been working on the problem for 3 years, in secret, telling no one because they knew the council would panic. And they had been right about the panic. The Trekkie delegate entered Veth's chambers without announcement. His chrome body was dull with stress, and his mandibles clicked rapidly. "High Counselor, we have received reports from the outer sectors. Ships are going missing. Entire stations have gone dark. The crews did not have time to send distress calls. They simply stopped transmitting." Veth looked up. "It has begun." "What has begun? What is happening?" Veth stood and walked to his window. The city outside was darker now than it had been weeks ago. More systems had failed. More towers had gone silent. And now, something far worse was coming. "We are facing an enemy older than any of our civilizations," Veth said quietly. "An enemy that nearly destroyed the galaxy once before. The humans knew about it. They were trying to protect us all. And we threatened them, insulted them, drove them away." The Trekkie delegate was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice small. "What can we do?" We can pray that the humans are still watching. We can hope that despite everything we did to them, they still care about this galaxy. Because if they have truly abandoned us, then we are all going to die." In the void between galaxies, aboard the Dawn of Sol, Commander Tewu received the same reports. Ships vanishing, stations going dark. The endless hunger was waking up. He turned to Ambassador Yuna, who stood beside him on the bridge. "They know now. The Council understands what they were so afraid of." Yuna nodded. "Yes. The question is whether they understand what they have to do next. You think they will apologize? I think they will beg. But an apology is not what we need from them. We need them to understand that humanity is not their servant. We are their partner. We are their equal. Until they truly believe that, going back will accomplish nothing." Tewu looked out at the darkness. Somewhere out there, an ancient evil was stirring. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were about to learn what real fear meant. "How long do we wait?" he asked. Yuna's face was hard. "As long as it takes. The humans have suffered too much, sacrificed too much, to go back to being tools for species who do not respect us. If the Council wants our help, they will have to earn it." And in the depths of space, the darkness grew. The first world to fall was a small colony on the edge of Korathi space. It was called Bright Haven, and 12 million beings lived there. They were miners, farmers, families who had come to build new lives far from the crowded core worlds. They had 1 hour of warning. The colony's sensors detected something approaching from the void. Something massive and dark that seemed to swallow the light of the stars. The governor sent a distress call to the nearest military base. The base scrambled its ships, but by the time help arrived, Brighthaven was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. The planet was still there. Its cities were still standing. But every living thing on the surface had vanished. The ships that had been in orbit were empty, drifting without power. The only sign of what had happened was a strange darkness that hung over the world like a shadow. A darkness that seemed to move and pulse with a hunger that had no end. High Counselor Veth received the report in silence. Around him, the other council members were shouting, arguing, demanding answers that no one could give. But Veth said nothing. He simply sat on his throne and stared at the images of the dead world. "We must attack," the Trekkie delegate insisted. "We have the largest military force in the galaxy. We can destroy this threat." "With what?" the Mallory representative asked, its colors cycling through shades of despair. "Our ships are crippled without human navigation crystals. Our weapons were designed to fight other ships, not ancient horrors. We do not even know what we are fighting." "Then we must find the humans," another voice called out. "We must beg them to return." "We have tried," Veth said quietly. The room fell silent at his words. "We have broadcast on every frequency. We have sent ships to search every corner of known space. The humans do not answer. They do not wish to be found." "Then we are doomed," someone whispered. Veth stood. His ancient body was heavy with exhaustion and grief, but his voice was still strong. "Perhaps. But we are not dead yet. The Korathi have faced extinction before. We have always survived. Gather what forces we have. We will make our stand here, at the heart of Council space. If we are to die, we will die fighting." The battle that followed would be remembered for 1,000 years, if there was anyone left to remember it. The Council's combined fleet numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Ships from a dozen species gathered above the Council's homeworld, forming a wall of metal and fire. The greatest warriors of each civilization stood ready. The most powerful weapons ever created were armed and aimed at the approaching darkness. And it meant nothing. The endless hunger came like a wave of nothing. It did not attack in any way the defenders understood. It simply moved forward, and everything it touched ceased to exist. Ships vanished, weapons fired into the darkness and disappeared without effect. Brave soldiers charged into battle and were simply gone, erased from the universe as if they had never been. Admiral Jiho watched the battle from the hidden observation post where the human fleet waited. His face was a mask of stone, but inside, his heart was breaking. "They are dying," said Captain Mira, standing beside him. "Thousands of them. Millions. I know. We could help them. We have the research. We know what Dr. Hana discovered. We might be able to slow the hunger down." "I know. Then why are we just watching?" Jiho turned to look at her. His eyes were red with unshed tears. "Because Ambassador Yuna was right. If we go back now, if we save them without conditions, nothing will change. They will be grateful for a while. They will say nice things about humanity. And then, in 10 years, or 100 years, they will forget. They will go back to treating us like servants, like tools to be used and discarded. But people are dying. People are always dying. The question is whether their deaths will mean something." Jiho looked back at the battle. Humanity spent 200 years trying to earn the Council's respect through kindness and hard work. It did not work. The only language they understand is power. So now we show them our power. The power to save them, or the power to let them fall. The battle raged for 3 days. By the end, the Council's fleet was reduced to 1/10 of its original size. Entire species had lost their entire military forces. The Trekkie, who had been so proud of their chrome warriors, had only a handful of ships left. The Mallory had lost their entire home fleet. Even the mighty Korathi, who had ruled for 10,000 years, had seen their power broken, and still the darkness advanced. High Counselor Veth stood alone on the balcony of the council chamber, watching the sky. The endless hunger was visible now, a patch of absolute black that blocked out the stars. It was moving slowly, savoring its victory, consuming everything in its path. "Is anyone still listening?" Veth asked. His voice broadcast on every frequency his people still controlled. "Is there anyone left who can hear me?" For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a voice answered, a human voice, calm and steady and utterly without fear. "We are listening, High Counselor." Veth closed his eyes. "Ambassador Yuna, yes. You have been watching us die. Yes. Will you help us?" There was a pause. When Yuna spoke again, her voice was soft but firm. "That depends on you, High Counselor. We are tired of being your servants. We are tired of being threatened and dismissed. If humanity returns, we return as equals, full members of the Council, full rights and protections. No more demands, no more ultimatums. We work together, as partners, or we do not work together at all." Veth opened his eyes and looked at the advancing darkness. His people were dying. His civilization was falling. Everything the Korathi had built over 10,000 years was about to be erased, and he knew that he had no choice. "I accept," he said. "On behalf of the entire Galactic Council, I accept your terms. Humanity will be recognized as equals. You will have a seat on the Council. You will be treated with the same respect as any other member species. I swear it on my life and the lives of all my people." "And the other Council members?" Yuna asked. "Do they agree?" One by one, voices came over the communication channel. The Trekkie delegate, humbled and afraid. The Malori representative, desperate to survive. The Shadowkin, speaking through their strange echoing voices. Every surviving member of the Council added their voice to Veth's promise. "Very well," Yuna said. "We are coming. Hold on a little longer. Help is on the way." And in the darkness between stars, the human fleet began to move. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of the Dawn of Sol and watched the coordinates lock in. Around him, thousands of human ships were powering up their engines, preparing to jump into the greatest battle humanity had ever faced. "All hands," Jiho said. His voice broadcast to every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Jiho. The Council has accepted our terms. We are going home. And we are going to save the galaxy." A cheer rose up from the fleet. After weeks of waiting, after watching the suffering from afar, humanity was finally going to fight. Jiho smiled grimly. "Let's show them why they should never have threatened us in the first place." The fleet jumped. The human fleet emerged from nowhere like stars being born. 10,000 ships appeared in the space above the Council's home world. They were not like the military vessels of other species. They were not covered in weapons or armored with thick metal plates. They were sleek and simple, built for speed and precision. And they carried something that no other fleet in the galaxy possessed. They carried hope. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of the Dawn of Sol and looked at the approaching darkness. It was vast beyond imagination. A hole in the universe that swallowed everything it touched. The surviving Council ships floated nearby, damaged and helpless, their crews watching the humans with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "All ships, this is Admiral Jiho. Execute pattern Hana 1. Let's light up the dark." The human fleet spread out in a precise formation. Each ship carried a device that Dr. Hana Park had spent 3 years designing. A device based on the ancient technology of the Watchers. It did not destroy the endless hunger. Nothing could destroy it completely, but it could push it back. It could contain it again, lock it away in a new prison that would last another 10,000 years. The devices activated. Light burst forth from every human ship. Not ordinary light, but something deeper. Something that existed on a level beyond normal physics. It was the opposite of the endless hunger. A force of creation and existence that pushed against the force of destruction and nothing. The darkness screamed. It was not a sound that could be heard with ears. It was a feeling. A pressure in the mind. a sense of something ancient and terrible. Crying out in rage and pain, the endless hunger had not been challenged in 10,000 years. It had grown used to consuming everything in its path without resistance. Now, for the first time since its imprisonment, it faced an enemy that could hurt it. The battle lasted for hours. Human ships darted through the darkness, their devices blazing with light. Some were caught by tendrils of nothing and vanished, their crews sacrificing themselves to buy time for their comrades. But for every ship that fell, 10 more pushed forward, driving the darkness back, step by step. On the Council's homeworld, billions of beings watched the sky and prayed. High Counselor Veth stood on the same balcony where he had begged for human help. His ancient eyes tracked the battle, watching the small human ships dance with death. He had never seen such courage. He had never imagined such sacrifice. "They are dying for us," he whispered. "After everything we did to them, they are dying to save us." Beside him, his advisor Theron nodded slowly. "That is who they are, High Counselor. That has always been who they are. We were just too blind to see it." The battle reached its peak as the Dawn of Sol plunged directly into the heart of the darkness. Admiral Jiho had calculated that one ship, carrying the largest device, could seal the prison once and for all. But there was no guarantee that the ship would survive. Jiho did not hesitate. "All hands, brace for impact," he announced calmly. "It has been an honor serving with you." The Dawn of Sol's device activated at full power. For one terrible moment, the ship was swallowed by absolute darkness. The watchers on the human fleet held their breath. The watchers on the Council world fell silent. Then light exploded outward. The darkness was pushed back, compressed, forced into a shape that could be contained. The ancient prison reformed around it, stronger than before, reinforced by human technology and human will. The endless hunger raged against its new cage, but the cage held. It would hold for another 10,000 years, long enough for future generations to find a permanent solution. And at the center of the light, the Dawn of Sol emerged. Damaged, but intact, its crew alive. The galaxy erupted in celebration. 1 week later, Ambassador Yuna stood once again in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. But this time, things were different. This time, there was a 13th throne in the circle, made of simple steel and plain fabric. The human throne. "We are gathered here to welcome humanity as full members of the Galactic Council," High Counselor Veth announced. His voice was humble in a way it had never been before. "They have proven themselves not only as equals, but as saviors. They faced a threat that had defeated us all, and they conquered it through courage, sacrifice, and determination." Veth stepped down from his throne and walked to stand before Yuna. The other council members watched in shock. A High Counselor had never lowered himself before another species. "On behalf of the Korathi and all the peoples of this galaxy, I apologize," Veth said. "We treated you with contempt. We threatened you when we should have listened. We drove you away when we needed you most. We were wrong. And we are sorry." Yuna looked up at the ancient being before her. She could still remember standing in this same hall weeks ago, alone and threatened, facing down the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Now everything had changed. "We accept your apology," she said. "And we offer one of our own. We knew about the endless hunger. We knew what was coming. We should have told you, even if you would not have believed us. We should have fought harder to make you understand. Instead, we chose to hide, and many beings died because of that choice." Veth nodded slowly. "Perhaps mistakes were made on both sides. Perhaps that is how it always is, when different peoples learn to understand each other. Perhaps," Yuna agreed. She climbed the steps to the human throne and sat down. It was not comfortable. It was not grand. But it was hers, and it meant that humanity finally had a voice in the future of the galaxy. "So what happens now?" the Trekkie delegate asked. "The endless hunger is contained, but it will break free eventually. We cannot face it again." "You will not have to," Yuna said. "Humanity will take on the duty of watching the prison, as the ancient watchers did before us. But we will also do something they never did. We will study the endless hunger. We will learn its weaknesses, and eventually, we will find a way to destroy it forever. How can you be so certain? The Mallory representative asked. Yuna smiled. It was the same small smile she had shown the council when she walked out weeks ago. But now it was a smile of hope instead of defiance, because that is what humans do. We face impossible problems and find solutions. We look at the darkness and find ways to create light. We have been doing it since we first climbed down from the trees on our homeworld. We will keep doing it until the last star burns out. She looked around the council chamber at the 12 other species who now shared power with humanity. Some of them still looked uncomfortable. Some of them still had doubts. But all of them had seen what humans could do when pushed to their limits. We are not your servants anymore, Yuna said. We are your partners, your equals. And together, we are going to build something that will last for 10,000 years and beyond. A galaxy where every species is respected, where every voice is heard, where no one is threatened or dismissed simply because they are small or new or different. High Counselor Veth bowed his great head. We will try to be worthy of that vision. Ambassador, see that you do, Yuna replied, because humanity will be watching. And we have a very long memory. Far away, in the darkness between galaxies, the human fleet patrolled the new prison. The endless hunger, pressed against its cage, hungry and patient, knowing that eventually it would be free again. But standing guard against it were billions of humans who had learned an important lesson. They had learned that kindness without strength meant nothing, that respect had to be earned, and that sometimes the only way to make your voice heard was to stop talking and start acting. The galaxy had changed forever, and at the center of that change, small and stubborn and impossibly brave, stood humanity. They had come to the stars as newcomers and servants. They had been mocked, threatened, and dismissed. But they had never stopped being who they were, and now the galaxy knew why humans were worth fearing. Not because of their weapons, not because of their technology, but because they never, ever gave up. The stars burned bright above the council world. The darkness waited in its prison, and humanity watched over it all, standing guard for a galaxy that had finally learned to say thank you. This was only the beginning.